Welcome to the Good Success Podcast, where we encourage and challenge purpose-driven entrepreneurs to create, build, and maintain profitable businesses so they can have more to give more. Our motto is to be a conduit, not a bucket. Work to have to give. We hope you enjoy the show. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Good Success Podcast. I am your host, Tom Olson, and I am really super excited about our guest that we have for you guys today. His name is ShawnQ, and he is a Christian entrepreneur, which you guys know me. I love connecting with Christian entrepreneurs. We had a little bit of talk before this podcast, and I can kind of just feel the energy, and I can feel the connection with people that don't just want to build this kingdom on this earth, but really want to build the kingdom and what really matters. And at the end of the day, that is what really matters. So welcome to the show, ShawnQ. How you doing?
Tom, thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
It is awesome. Now, I didn't ask you, where are you at today? Where are you at right now?
I am in the middle of America, right in the middle of Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Okay, he's coming from us from Colorado. I was hoping he wasn't coming from the East Coast because right now while we're recording this, they're having a hurricane and it's not looking so good for some of those areas. But he's insulated just like we are right outside Chicago, Indiana, and we're right here. So we actually been having a very peaceful week and lows in the 60s, highs in the 80s. I mean, perfect weather that we're having here. So, ShawnQ is a high ticket sales coach. So if you're out there and you're saying, hey, like I have learned a lot about real estate, or I've learned a lot about my business. I feel like God doesn't want me to just kind of be a bucket. He doesn't want me to just have all of this knowledge and me to just use all the knowledge, but he wants me to be able to help other people not make some of the same mistakes that I've made. And you might say, hey, I've got programs I want to be able to sell. I'm actually looking at Shawn myself because honestly, as I was telling him before we got on this podcast, it's probably one of my weaknesses. As you guys can tell, I've had the podcast. We do a great job branding. A lot of people know us as the Christian Mastermind. I totally love it. I get it. But at the end of the day, online sales has not been our strength at Good Success. And I'm interested to hear what he has to say today and how he helps clients as well. So thank you so much for being on the show, Shawn.
Yeah, I'm really stoked about it. We've had really good weather this last week as well. My family actually came to visit from California over the last couple of days, and they've absolutely enjoyed our weather. Typically during the summer, we get a lot of thunderstorms and a lot of lightning, but it's been pretty chill. So I'm thanking God every day for beautiful weather, great people to work with, and an awesome opportunity to change lives and to serve people. So excited to be here, man.
Yeah, it's awesome that you say that as well, too, because that's actually what I wanted to kind of just give a brief talk about this morning before we get going. And that is, this year has been a tough year for most people. Unless your name is Amazon or unless your name is Walmart, or unless you really are in one of those businesses that kind of just got pushed to the top as soon as, I'm not talking about like inflated prices with stock prices have gone crazy. And I'm not sure why people are still buying some of these stocks that are really become worthless. And we're seeing bankruptcies happen in big companies, bankruptcies happen all over the place, like, debt's becoming due. It's getting harder even for us to sell properties with some of my other companies because of lending restrictions are kind of, starting to happen. And it's been one of these years where it's like, yes, the government comes in and they think they're our savior. They think that and I think a lot of Americans look to the government like, hey, we need somebody to save us. But listen, everybody, I was really encouraged this week because I'll be honest with you, fear and anxiety is one of those things that I struggle with from time to time. I look at a lot of data, and when I see things, I'm like, man, there's some major problems right now in America. There's major problems with a lot of different things. But I want to give you guys a tip, and I want to just encourage everybody to do this. I want everybody to look up And normally I don't send people to other people's pages or other people's things, but in this instance, I think it's completely viable and you guys should. So look up the Bible Project. So it's actually a nonprofit group, and I'm actually doing the whole year right now. They have a Bible program on one of the apps that I'm on that it takes you through the Bible the entire year. But they do an amazing job kind of telling you about the whole story of the Bible and then each individual book of the Bible. And right now I'm in Ecclesiastes, and they did, and I'm just gonna encourage everybody to go to the Bible Project and look up Ecclesiastes and watch that. It's about an 11-minute video, and I'm just gonna encourage you guys to watch it because I'll tell you, for me, it really helped me a lot personally. And you know, at the end of the day, everything that we do here, Shawn, is vanity. Everything. And even the wisdom of this world, even the smarts that we think that we have, our righteousness, the good things that we do on this earth, at the end of the day, are just going to be vanity. And you might, you know, by saying this, you might like, oh, if it's really vanity, then what's the use? Well, what's the use is because we have such an amazing God who is out there, who not only knows what's going to happen tomorrow, but has already been in tomorrow. And he's not already been there. He's already in tomorrow. Our God is not, he has no constraints of time. Yeah. So just as much as he's in tomorrow, he is in yesterday, and he knows what every single one of you guys are going through. And at the end of the day, what's really important in this life is for us to trust him and for us to say, you know what? I'm going to work like everything depends on me, and I'm going to pray and trust like everything depends on you. And I just want to encourage everybody with that thought this morning. And if you guys will learn what I learned through that, I think you guys would learn it pretty quickly by just going to the Bible Project and looking up Ecclesiastes. So that's it for me. I'm not going to, talk a lot more. I'm going to get into the interview with Shawn that I'm super excited about, but I just want to encourage everybody, encourage me. And I want to be a conduit of that encouragement that I've been blessed with. So ShawnQ, your high ticket sales, and you're really trying to help other entrepreneurs. And I think really Christian entrepreneurs, if I'm not mistaken, is like what you're focused on. I'm not saying you're exclusive to maybe, outsiders in that, but you probably really are focused on the Christian entrepreneur. And you really try to help people convert those sales and create those funnels. And you're really excitable. So just before we get started, why don't you just tell us a little bit about, you just tell me who you are, what you do, and kind of, how you got into that.
Yeah, so it's really incredible whenever I do a podcast like this to hear such incredible things spoken about me. But it wasn't always that way. I wasn't always a high ticket coach. I wasn't always successful in business. I wasn't even always happy. I mean, I remember being in high school and being incredibly depressed, incredibly anxious, incredibly lonely and isolated. I mean, I still have scars on my wrist to prove how little value I gave my life. And it wasn't until I met a God who changed my entire life, who relentlessly pursued me despite fighting him over and over and over. And it wasn't until I finally said, okay, God, if you have purpose for me, then you have to show it to me, because all I'm experiencing is pain right now. I mean, my parents got divorced when I was young. My dad, my biological dad, was incredibly abusive. I was bullied a lot as a kid, was made fun of and beaten. And it wasn't until God said, I want to exchange that pain for a purpose to change lives in this world through you, that I really began to discover that God could do anything. If he could take someone like me, who had no friends, who ate lunch by himself every day throughout high school, and can take me to a place where I'm now speaking into the lives of thousands, tens of thousands of people, and giving people the hope of Christ, he can take any single person listening to this and transform your story. And so it was an incredible opportunity that arose for me to work in full-time ministry for 8 years. And I worked in full-time ministry for 8 years, started as an intern, eventually became a media producer, essentially the marketing director of the entire church. It was the second largest church in California. So we had an audience of about 26,000 attendees and members every single weekend, viewing our videos and viewing our content and watching and engaging in all of the things that we would put together. And it was when I was in the middle of editing a testimonial video that we were going to share that next Sunday God spoke to me and he said, hey, your season here is done. And at that time, I was preparing to be a pastor. I mean, I thought like the golden calf of Christianity is oftentimes full-time ministry as a pastor. And you think like you can't become a better Christian after that. Like that's the all-time high. And I remember God speaking to me and saying, your season here is done. And I thought, what? There is no way God would tell me to stop working at church. But then he reminded me through a vision and a memory of me in 5th grade making paper wallets and selling them for 25 cents because I wanted a brownie from the lunch lady. And he reminded me of the entrepreneurial spirit that he placed in me and the entrepreneurial anointing he placed in me. So I made a decision, I'm going to start a business then. And I started a business and did things in my own way. I tried to figure it out my own way. God said, go start a business. I did it. And I said, see you later, God. And the entire time, God wanted to do business with me. He didn't want me to do business for him. He wanted to do business with me. And so that business eventually crumbled. And God said, are you done trying to figure it out yourself? And I said, yes, because I am a mess. I don't know what I'm doing. And so I started praying and I started saying, God, I give up all control, all ambition, all drive. I gave you my broken parts, but I'm also giving you the best parts of me as well to do whatever you want with it. And he said, okay, well, I need you to go build relationships with other business people. And so I went to Google and I looked up a local business conference. And I at that time I was living in Southern California. I found one that worked perfect for me. It was exactly what I needed. Went to go buy a ticket and tickets were $5,000. Now at that time I had a minimum wage job. There was no way I could afford $5,000. I was not going to get a credit card, but I made a decision. I said, okay, if God's not going to provide the ticket, then God's going to give me the ability to be resourceful. If he's not going to give me the resources, he's going to give me the ability to be resourceful. So I made a decision. I'm going to find a way to get to that conference. I scoured their website, found like a privacy page with an email, and I emailed them. And I said, hey, I can't afford your ticket, but I can move tables. I can move chairs. I can help with registration. I'll pass out flyers, whatever I can do to get in the room and volunteer. Please let me come down. So they said, come on down, we'll have you volunteer, sounds great. So I went to go get directions and the conference was 8 hours away from where I lived, driving. I couldn't afford a plane ticket, but I said, okay, we're gonna drive there. Me and my stepdad drove all the way to San Francisco from Southern California, which is about an 8-hour drive from where we were when we attended this conference. And I volunteered. But the day before the conference started, they called me. And I thought they were going to say, Shawn, we're full. We don't need volunteers anymore. But they said, hey, our technical director, our person who's running the tech for the entire conference is sick. You mentioned that you have production background, specifically with your church. Is that a role you can step in? And I had prepared for something like that just in case they put me in that role. And so I was able to fill that role, kind of saved the conference. 2 weeks later, the CEO of the conference calls me and says, Shawn, that was incredible. You had the right skill, you had the right know-how, you had the right gear, you saved the conference. Can we put you up in a beautiful suite, pay you $10,000 and have you do our next conference for about 2 days? And at that point I was like, $10,000 for a weekend's worth of work? Absolutely. So I do that conference and I go from being in the back of the room as a volunteer to backstage working with people like Gary Vee, Michael Hyatt, Pat Flynn, Eric Ries, Ryan Dice. I mean, these incredible influencers and experts in their fields. And I start building relationships with them and I start helping to produce their events and their conferences as well. So I have worked with Ryan Dice and digital marketers, traffic and conversion and content and commerce. These are the biggest marketing conferences on the planet. And now I get backstage access to meet these incredible people. Well, I made a decision, all this information that God is giving me access to, I'm going to apply it. I'm going to start my marketing agency. So I started my marketing agency and started working with some incredible clients, built that to a 6-figure business. And I discovered that the majority of people who need marketing services also need help making sure that their offer is marketable. There's so many people spending so much money to market a really bad product or a really bad offer, and it just doesn't help people. And it's kind of a gut instinct, gut created, like, oh, I think this will be marketable. So they go out. So I started building another program and we began to help people specifically build an incredible offer that fits a market that's willing to pay a high price for it. And we show them how to have incredibly confident sales conversations that doesn't feel pushy or sleazy or manipulative, but it's biblical. It has integrity. There's honor. It's fun and it's easy. And so we began to build this program, and God told me specifically, work with Christian entrepreneurs, work with everyone else. Please be a light into this dark world, be a light in the marketplace, but also empower my people. And so I created a Facebook group, which is now about 9,000 people in the group. I have never marketed that group. It has been totally God ordained. And we have worked with incredible clients and have generated through our clients millions of dollars through our new program that we've put together about 4 or 5 years ago. So it's been pretty incredible seeing both sides of the marketing and the sales work well together and be able to coach people in doing things that they never thought possible. I mean, I have a client who landed a $200,000 corporate contract. Never in his life has he held a check for that much money, and he landed a $200,000 corporate contract. I have another person who landed a $90,000 contract using our processes with LinkedIn, a massive corporation, massive social platform. He now can say LinkedIn is his client. And then we also work with other people who don't sell that high, but $3,000 a month is high for them. $10,000 a month is high for them. And so we help a lot of people develop some of the smaller items that are smaller price than those corporate contracts. But if they're a coach, if you're a consultant, if you're a service provider, you deserve to be paid well, especially if you're changing lives. So if you're selling stuff for like $100, $200, $1,000, we got to get that price up. And that's what we do with all of our clients. And we help them land those high paying clients.
That's awesome. I love all that story. Thank you so much for giving us and for, just investing into our community and really telling your story. You do a really good job of articulating, how you got to where you are, where you came from, and, and really like you give God all the glory, which is kind of what you started with, that's really what God wants anyways. God doesn't want us to just toot our horn and tell everybody how amazing and how awesome we are, because at the end of the day, we wouldn't even have those skills or have those opportunities if it wasn't for him. And it kind of rings true in many different, respects. I love the book Outliers, and it kind of talks about, how like we really wouldn't have anything that we had unless somebody else kind of paved that path through, for us. So it's really awesome. You talked about working in media in the second largest church in California, and I didn't even realize that you did that as well. But that's something else that we have in common. I actually ran the orchestra board for our 7,500 seat auditorium here in Hammond, Indiana, at the First Baptist Church in Hammond, Indiana.
No way, that's awesome, man.
And I've been a part of. I don't do this anymore because a lot of times I'm out of town for the weekends. But so I can't really commit to it like I used to be able to. But my father-in-law actually built the entire theatrical system with lighting, and we ran the lighting, and we built the lighting, and we built the sound system and everything about 15 years ago, and ran that for about 10 years. So that's really amazing to kind of connect with somebody, and really like you had no idea that what would prepare you to do what you're doing now was a completely different skill. And I think that's so important. I personally see so many of these kids, and really like it's 18, 19, 20, 25-year-old kids that they think that they've arrived and they're already supposed to be selling some like $100,000 course or something, but they've never really done anything themselves, and they never really developed a skill that was even marketable to begin with. And then they wonder why they don't have the experience, and they wonder why nobody wants to work with them. And they might be really great at something, but they're so focused on something else that they're really not focused on, what God's given them in the moment to be good at. And if you wouldn't have taken that opportunity, you never would have had the opportunities that you have today. And I just think that's so awesome on, how God works. I have this crazy dream to flip the entire city of Gary, Indiana, and make it to a city where people move to instead of move away from.
Yeah,
but God had to put me in that city. In 2006, I went from making $120,000 a year to making $20,000 a year overnight. It was like overnight. Everything got pulled out from underneath me, and I moved my family from an A-class neighborhood to what most people would call a D-class neighborhood. And I paid $19,000 cash for my house. I put boarders in my basement, which paid for the entire, costs that I had in that property. And, I just had to make it work. But that's what that's how God led me to having a heart for a city that most people have completely forgotten about, or would rather say bad or negative things about, than to really care about the need that's actually here. So, I just love connecting with other Christian entrepreneurs. You did talk about being a pastor, and that you never were a pastor, right? Okay.
Never were a pastor. I was preparing to be a pastor. I went to Bible college for 2 years, got my biblical studies degree, and was preparing to be a pastor. And now what's really cool is God has kind of full circled that. We just planted a church in Colorado Springs. And so we can now consider ourselves church planners, on top of running a business and working with incredible clients. So it's been really full circle for God to take everything I learned from that church and that experience under that leadership and be able to apply it in my business, but also in ministry at the same time.
Absolutely. And, I think it is our job. I believe the Bible commands everybody and we commands us to get the Great Commission out and to like get the gospel out to all nations. And it's our job just as much as it is pastors. And now, if I'll be honest with you, if I was a pastor and I didn't feel like a pastor was the greatest job in the entire world, then I probably shouldn't be a pastor. And that's, what I'm saying? Like, if you're a pastor, that's what you need to do. If you're a business owner, that's what you need to do. I don't think that they mix too well, although I do believe that a pastor has a great job in helping business owners, spiritually. And I think that Christian business owners can have a great part in helping plant churches, like you said, or helping those churches or supporting those churches. It's kind of like, in the military, you think about the military and everybody wants to be the guy with the gun, or the guy, like on the front lines. But guess what? The guy that is in the back, that's bringing all the material, or bringing the ammunition, or bringing the food from the back, that if that supply, if the enemies always know if they can cut off the supply lines, then those people in the front lines are dead in the water. And so I really believe that that's what Christian business owners should be. That's how we should be thinking. We are COSCOM. We are the people that are making sure that the people in the front lines have what they need, and they have support as well. They have our support. We're not there, too many Christian business owners, I think, try to control their pastors, and what they ought to do is let go and let God. I really love connecting with you because I feel like that you really have that heart, and it's awesome.
One of my favorite Bible characters, real people, but is Joseph of Arimathea. Joseph of Arimathea is the guy who owned the burial ground, or the cave that Jesus was buried in. And he's the one who went to the Pharisees. He's the one who went to Caesar and said, please let Jesus be buried in my place, because what was typical was for Jesus to be buried in his family's tomb, but they didn't have a tomb. They weren't wealthy people. Joseph of Arimathea was influential enough to get a meeting with Caesar. He was rich enough to have a tomb, and he was a believer, and he said, I want my Christ to be buried in my tomb. And so it was the tomb that Jesus Christ rose from, that was buried from 3 days, took the keys from life and death back from Satan, and eventually rose again. It was the same tomb that the two women, Marys, went to go and witness the angels and recognize that Christ was written. And so Joseph of Arimathea was the influential business person that allowed that story to even happen. And that's one of my favorite people in the Bible, because it gives me a great example of what it's like to be a Christian business owner, to be somebody who supports your local church, who gives to your local church, who says, hey, you want to run a homeless ministry? Great, here's $30,000, go do it. I have no say in it, because God gave you the vision, but he gave me the resources to partner with you to make the vision happen. Or you want to, level up our children's ministry? Great, here's $50,000, or here's $5,000, or here's $100, whatever you can give, because the hope of the world is found in the local church. And like you said at the very beginning of this episode, everything else is vanity outside of salvation and restoration. Everything else is vanity. That's why our company is called the Legacy Tribe, because we're so focused on building a legacy, not just financial, but impact and purpose. Building a legacy that's going to not just live and die with me, but outlive me to my kids, the people I'll never meet this side of heaven, but the people I can prepare through my business, through my financial success, and be able to say, hey, I did the work so you can do more work. I got you here so you can go to the next mile. And so if you're a Christian business owner and you're listening to this, let me encourage you, partner with your local church. Give them the resources that God has granted you. Listen to God and give generously. I mean, the whole purpose of finances, the whole purpose to get is to give. The whole purpose to create an income is so you can create an impact. And so please be a gulp giver. That's one of my favorite terms is, okay, God, who do you want me to give to? All right, how much do you want? You want me to give him that much? All right, I'm going to do it, but I'm going to gulp the entire way. So I love Christian business owners because you have access to resources. You have a mind of being able to collect resources to be able to partner with your church and create even more kingdom impact.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love that so much. And you kind of wrap it up by saying, God doesn't want you to do business for him. He wants to do business with you. And, I think that was definitely a blessing to me, to hear you say that. And I totally agree and concur with everything that you're saying. And I'm just so encouraged to have other people out there that believe the same way I do. And that really do want to encourage other people to be purpose driven. God doesn't work without purpose or plan. So why do we? And I think that's where it starts. Like, we have to have that plan. We have to have purpose. We have to know why we were put on this earth. And then we got to create a plan to be able to make it happen. And that's really the first step. And normally that's kind of why you work with a coach, because they help you create that plan. They help you not just create a plan and show you where to go, but they also might show you how to actually get there. And that's the hard part. I mean, I think sometimes the easy part is having the vision, knowing where you want to go. And then the hard part is actually, making it happen. And that's really what the Bible calls wisdom. There's a difference in knowing that you can make $1 billion or knowing how to make $1 billion and actually going out and doing it. And that's the wisdom part that the Bible talks about through and through all. And I love, how you've just completely keep depicting, a conduit. Like we have all been given something by God, whether it's time, whether it's talent, whether it's treasure, whatever it is. And we're only here to work with our hands, the thing which is good, so we can have to give to those in need. It's funny that you brought up the tomb and Joseph, and it kind of made my brain start thinking. Me and my wife went to Israel last year and had an amazing trip, and I just still remember there's 2 different places that they kind of think the tomb could have been or whatever, and we went to both of them. And you talked about your favorite story in the Bible and one of your favorite characters, and Joseph had the resources. And what would the story have looked like if Joseph either would have been fearful that maybe, the government would have cut his head off or wanted to kill him because he said that this is my Christ, right? He could have been fearful and not taken that road. Or he could have been too proudful and he could have said, I'm not giving, that's mine. I don't want to give that, back to Jesus. Or he could have just been lazy. And in my opinion, those are the 3 things that normally hold most Christian entrepreneurs back, is either pride, fearfulness, or laziness. And I hope this encourages you guys today to get off your butt, to make it happen, even in the middle of coronavirus. Right now, we have had a tough year. I get it. But what are you doing today to advance God's kingdom? I promise you, God's working with or without you. And I've talked to lots of missionaries. In fact, it's one of the things I've been promoting is there's an employee of mine that actually still works for me, and he's in Peru. And basically what he does for me is he runs all of my Podio system. So he, like, if I need anything, like, I just send him a ticket, he makes it happen, and he'll correct it, or he'll, build us a new app or whatever we need. But he's there as a missionary, and Peru's been shut down right now for like 4 months, completely shut down. You're not allowed to leave your house unless you're going to the store. And most of those people, like 60% of the population in Peru, they literally work today to feed their family today. So they work, they go get paid, they go buy food, and they eat. That's it. Like, that's how people live. And I know that most people listening to this don't even understand how that can be possible. But if you guys want to give to that, we are collecting donations with communitygogiver.com. With that, Community Go Giver is my nonprofit that we have for that. But I always want to encourage people, especially during these times, a little bit goes a long ways in these types of areas. And I just love, love what you got there. So, I mean, we do ask people a lot of different questions. You kind of answered, how you got started. I appreciate that. Maybe you hit this, but I'm just going to ask again. So why do you do what you do now?
I come from a long line of incredibly broken people, just as we all do, just as Christ did. He came from a lineage of prostitutes, of broken kings, of men who ran away and didn't have courage. And so we come from an incredibly line of broken people, but we also come from an incredible line of incredible people. I have a mix of, pastors in my lineage, as well as people who are in prison for incredibly difficult things. And I wanted to make a decision for my life. And I said, okay, God, you can do anything. So I want to be the line in the sand in my generation that stops getting divorced. For 4 generations past, every single person in a relationship has ended in divorce multiple times. I want to be the one that is not a drunk, is not on drugs. I want to be the one that stops every single generational curse that has followed my lineage, so that my family and my kids and my great-grandkids and my great-great-grandkids never have to struggle with the things that I've struggled with. And I want to be the one who is able to say, because of God, not because of my own strength, not because of my own might, because I'm a mess without him, because of God, everything is different. And so I made a decision. I'm going to be an example of what a godly marriage looks like. Me and my wife have been married for 4 years now. I've known her since I was 12 years old. So I've known her for about 17 years. And it's been incredible to just watch God allow our relationship to flourish. I want to be a great father when we eventually have kids. I want to be, I want to be a great neighbor and a great family person. I want to be a great example in my church, and not somebody like, one of my family members who is a, hey, brother, hallelujah at church, but then beat his kids back at home. And so I want to be a good example of what it means to be authentic and to be real and to be genuine and to be somebody who can love God and love people at the same time. I carry this in my wallet. It's a small quote that I wrote down that says, there's no one in this world that you couldn't learn to love once you've heard their story. And so my job is to love people unconditionally, because that's what my God asked me to do. It's not my job to judge. It's not my job to do anything other than to love people. God's our judge, and God will take care of what he has to take care of. But my job is to love people enough to show them a hope and a compassion and a merciful God that says, I love you, I will relentlessly pursue you, and I want you back. And so everything in our business, from every lunch we do to every live stream, I pray, God, bring the people who will never go to a church service, but will attend a business conference or attend a business challenge or watch a business live stream or whatever the case is. I ask God, bring the broken so that I can show them the example that you've created in my life and continue to show up in my life. And so it's been really incredible to do evangelical work in the marketplace and to minister to people. I can't tell you how many messages I've gotten because I share my testimony. I share my faith. I share that I'm a lover of Jesus Christ. I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. I can't tell you how many people have messaged me after watching a webinar where I'm selling something for $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 who say, Shawn, I started going to church again because I watched that webinar. Or Shawn, I gave my life back to Christ after I attended that challenge. Or Shawn, I've gone to this conference and it feels like I'm back home at church that I haven't been to for 20 years because I got hurt. And so it's been incredible to do that evangelical work, make a whole lot of money so we can give a lot of money, but also to see people's lives change.
It's awesome. I really appreciate all that. And, that's exactly, what we think when we think about good success. When we think about good success, it all starts with all those things that you said that you didn't want to do. And it all starts with you being the right person. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who else you help. It doesn't matter what you do. If you're not the right person, it doesn't really matter if you do the right things or not. So that's the first step, is to be the right person and then do the right things and not do the wrong things, right? I mean, one of these things in my business when I'm teaching people, and I'll even have people hit our mastermind this next week, and I go over all of my meetings. And one of the meetings that we do is our quarterly and our pre-quarterlies with all of our teams. And one of those things that we ask everybody every single quarter is, what are we going to stop doing? And now we should be asking ourselves those things in our own personal life as well. What are those things we need to stop doing in our personal lives? That sin that does so easily beset us. You know, those are you have to stop doing those things in order to be able to do those right things. Sometimes it's just focus, and sometimes it's just, you know, like waste of time, but sometimes it's just things that we shouldn't be doing, and they're wrong. And you know, I love the fact that you said that you wanted to be that right person, and you know, that's why you do what you do, and you listed off all those things. I really appreciate that. Also, because of God, everything is different, and I just love that statement, and love that. So, you know, we've gotten through quite a bit of stuff already, and I'd love to be able to talk to you all day long, but time is going to get away from us if we don't, you know, start wrapping this thing up a little bit. So what exciting project do you have right now, ShawnQ, that you'd love to, you know, tell the audience about and tell our listeners about?
Yeah, so the thing we're working on is the thing we've been working on for the last 5 years, which is our 5-day, 1 client away challenge. This challenge is specifically for coaches, consultants, or service providers, freelancers who have a gift that they know that the world needs. And they don't want to just give away the gift for free over and over and over and over, although they have no problem with that. They also would like to make a little bit of money. And so it's a sales challenge that helps you land a client within 5 days, and not just at any price, but at your premium highest price. This is an incredible challenge that we've been perfecting for 5 years. I actually do a sales demonstration during this challenge. I show you a real call that I've taken where I land a $3,500 a month client. And for some people, that's a whole lot. For some people, that's not. But the principles apply across the board, whether you're landing corporate clients like one of my clients who landed almost a $250,000 client, or you're landing a $3,000 client. So wherever you land in that spectrum, we want to help you raise your price, build an offer that actually sells and markets well, and be able to get you a client within those 5 days.
That's awesome. So it's called the 5-day, 1 client away challenge.
5-day, 1 client away challenge. In order to get access, it's absolutely free. It's our best training for free, $5,000 worth of training for free. You just go to clientschallenge.com. Clients is plural because we want you to land more than one. So clientschallenge.com.
And this is free, right? There's no, like, there might be some upsells in there maybe, but this is actually free.
All the training, absolutely free.
Awesome. So I love that. So, you know, I might put you on the spot here if you don't mind.
Let's do it.
All right. So I'm going to put Junior, our sales guy, through this here. So if he cannot, for some reason, get on this next one, that's going to be right after this viewing. I think you have one from the time we're doing this in about 3 or 5 days.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put Junior through this, who's my sales guy.
I love it.
And I would love to be able to give you a testimonial and say, yes, we got that one client in those 5 days. I'd love to be able to make that happen.
I love it, man. We have a lot of people who put their sales teams through the challenge, just because the training itself is just so good. It's not a 5-day sales pitch. I'm not wasting your time for 5 days with ideas or philosophy or theories, or, it's what has worked for me and for my clients. We're literally giving you the golden treasure that you need in order to get the result that we guarantee if you do the work. If you're just going to take notes and kind of sit back and watch, I'm not going to be sad if you don't land a client because you didn't do the work. So you got to watch the training and then apply the training, and then you get the result.
I love it. So so where do you want people to go? Clientschallenge.com. So just go to clientschallenge.com, and that is where you can learn more about that and how you guys can get signed up for the next one. I'm assuming you do those every so often.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah. So once you listen to this, I'm sure we'll be doing another one. I know at the time of this recording, we're doing one the following week, but we do them pretty consistently throughout the year.
Awesome. Love it. So if our audience would like to get in touch with you, is there other ways that you would like to direct them? Facebook, Instagram, websites, anything, or it's just clientschallenge.com is where you would like to send people?
Go to clientschallenge.com. You're going to get the best training from me. You're also going to be able to interact with me. It's a live training. So if you have any questions or anything I can help you with, that's going to be the best way to get a hold of me.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So clientschallenge.com. If you are watching this on Facebook, you will see this in the comments below. And if you are watching this on YouTube, you can also go to the description, and we'll also link that in there as well. All right. So thank you so much for that. I'm excited about that myself. Like I said, that's kind of one of the things in our business that we're working on, especially this year. We basically are a live events business. I don't make any money from this podcast. I don't make any money from doing a bunch of videos, which we do. And we try to give free content and help people and encourage and challenge and support Christian entrepreneurs. But really, like, how we make money in this business is live masterminds. And this year we've decided, hey, we need to add to that a virtual mastermind option. And we have been doing that. We got 20 calls that we're doing. So if you guys are interested in that, you guys can message me. Actually, just message me personally on Facebook, or you guys can just post something on this post if you're watching on Facebook, and get a hold of us that way as well. So either way, Junior will reach out to you and make it happen for you. But I really would love for more people to go to that clientschallenge.com and learn more about ShawnQ and what he's got going. So Shawn, we've got 2 questions, and I ask every single person that comes on this, and I've gotten some really, great answers, and I've gotten some, answers where I kind of was scratching my head for some of these, and I actually had one guy say, "I don't really like your name because I think it should say great success and not good success," and I was like, I think you're missing the point, because it's all about the right kind of success, and it's about the quantity. It's not about the quantity; it's about the quality of the success there. But when you first heard that good success, obviously it means a lot to us, and we've talked about it a little bit today. But the term good success, the right kind of success, what does that mean to you? When you hear good success, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, I think the only good success is obedient success, is where we hear from God. And not just do we hear his will, but we also understand his way and his timing. And we do that exactly. We don't try to do his will through our way or through our own timing, but we hear God, we do business with God, and we say, okay, God, what do you want to do with this business? How do you want to show up today? How do you want me to show up today? Who do you want me to reach out to? What kind of content do you want me to create? We listen to God for his will, his way, his timing, and then we act on that. I believe that no matter how much money you make, if it's not in accordance with God's will, God's way, or God's timing, then it doesn't even matter. It's vanity, or it's even disobedience. So as long as you remain obedient to his will, his way, his timing, everything else is going to take care of itself. You look at the Bible, there's several stories of people, this woman who gives 2 pennies, essentially. And he said she gave more than any other rich man had given. Why? Because she was obedient, and it was sacrifice for her. And so listen into God's will, listen for his way, listen for his timing, and then act.
It's so great. Honestly, I have chills right now just hearing that, because you talked a lot about love, and for us, our number one core value for all of our companies is charity. And for us, charity doesn't mean giving to charity, although it does, but it's so much more than giving. It's a way of living, and it's really how you love one another. And the greatest 2 commandments is love the Lord thy God with all thy might. And number 2 is like unto the first, love thy neighbor as thyself. And the whole law is wrapped up into that, which is really what you also just said, is obey the law. And, if going back to Ecclesiastes and kind of how I opened up this whole thing, and I had no idea you were going to go down those trails, but that's how that video that I told everybody to go to wraps up and says the whole law is in those 2 things: love God and obey his commandments. And at the end of the day, obedience is not an easy thing sometimes, because our pride gets in the way every day, and we think we know it all, and we've got to push it down. And it's just so refreshing to be able to talk to somebody that gets that, and that is humble enough to admit that. So thank you so much, ShawnQ, for being on our show today. I've really enjoyed everything that you've invested into our audience today. There's one question I'd like to ask before we get to the last question. Because you mentioned it, and I was like, what? I've got him on the show. Why don't I just ask him? You said one of the things that you do is to help make other people's offer better. Would you just be willing to give us a good paragraph or a couple minutes or minute of how do you help somebody make their offer better?
Yeah, so we actually have a 21-point offer checklist that we go through with every single one of our clients that helps us uncover how marketable and sellable is the offer. Is there a cost of inaction? So if somebody says no to you, does life get worse? Do you have a description that describes the offer exactly what it is, so people know exactly what they're buying? They're clear about it in 1 to 2 sentences. Do you have a name that communicates the results of the purchase? Are you focused on lowering risk and creating value or adding value, so that the risk to say yes is very minimal, but the value is overwhelming? And so we have a 21-point checklist. Those are a couple of them that we go through that help us recognize whether an offer is marketable or sellable. At the end of the day, one of the best ways to make sure that your offer is marketable and sellable is simply a process called validation. Go validate it in the market. Go to your market. We have our clients actually interview 100 people, and we help them collect data through the interview process and through several other processes where they take that data and turn that data into profitable insights, and then turn that profitable insight into a sellable offer. So many people are, what will sell today? And they kind of come up with it based off of an idea or a gut reaction to it, as opposed to saying, okay, what does the market want? And then creating what the market wants, and being able to sell that. So it's very similar to, making a key and finding a door that it fits in. Instead of trying to do that, go to the lock and then mold the key for that specific lock. Go to your market and then mold your offer for that market.
That's awesome. I love that. And honestly, there's so many Christian businesses I know of that are hurting right now, and a lot of them need help. So, there's a lot wherever there's hurt and wherever there's struggle, there is a need. And I look at the same way I look at Gary, Indiana, wherever there's much hurt and there's much housing that's been torn down or vacant, or wherever the need is great. Well, guess what? That's where most of us can add value. And that's what needs to be added. If the millionaires and billionaires, it's kind of hard to add value to them unless you have a product to be able to sell them. And, we do that with our turnkey rentals and with lending opportunities that they have with our businesses. Another thing that we do for them. But at the other end of the spectrum, I want to be investing in communities, and I want to be helping people that are struggling. And this year, more than any year I've ever been alive, I believe, people are struggling right now. And it's not just a battle of flesh and blood. It is definitely a spiritual battle that we're fighting right now. And, I love being able to encourage other people through this podcast and through other things that we do here at Good Success. So, I don't have much more time with you, ShawnQ, and I really do appreciate all of your insights and everything that you've given us today. But, it's just like me, to just try to just squeeze one more nugget or one more little piece of advice. If you were to leave the audience with just one piece of advice, maybe a book, a life lesson, or if there's just a statement or just some kind of message that you would love to get out to the entire world today, what would that be?
Yeah, so for most coaches, consultants, or service providers, they're wasting a lot of time tinkering with a website or creating a funnel or, building a Facebook group. And all of those things are great. None of them are bad. We have all those things. What I would encourage you, if you want to land a client, do one thing: live in conversation. Go have as many conversations as you can. Whenever I have somebody who comes up to me and says, Shawn, I haven't landed any clients this month, my number one question is, how many people have you talked to? How many conversations have you had? How much money have you asked for? Because if you're not asking, you're not going to receive. So go ask and go have conversations.
That's really, I love that. And I'm going through that right now, and we're getting really good at that. And I really appreciate that. So I think that's great advice. And, just so you guys know, there is a way to make money on social media, but it's not posting your selfies, right? And it's not posting all of this. And I think it's good. And don't get me wrong, if you're posting encouraging things, I think that is valuable, and you are being a blessing and that you are helping people. But if you're trying to make sales, that's not going to get it done. You've got to have conversations, and how you have conversations in many different ways. But social media is definitely a place to be able to have conversations with people if you actually care enough to listen to what they're going through. So thank you so much again, Shawn. I have really enjoyed today's podcast. I'd love to be able to connect on a different platform, and honestly, possibly have you come speak at the mastermind at some point if you're interested in that. If we ever open up again, I don't know. Who knows what's going on with this crazy world that we live in. But thank you again so much for that. I really do appreciate all your time.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. And everybody who's listening, thanks so much for spending time with us today.
Awesome. That's going to do it for today's episode, guys. I do want to just offer you guys two more things. First of all, I've got the 30 Days to Good Success workbook. It's 160 pages, and you can actually invest some time into yourself. The first thing they tell you to do if a plane's going down is what? Put that mask on yourself. And right now, if you're struggling, maybe it's time to turn focus around to trying to help everybody else, to kind of focus on where you're at now and what you need help with. And that's really what that book's going to do. It can also be a mentoring book as well. If you're a mentor, it's got 30 questions in there that I think is great to be able to ask for people that you're mentoring, and you can do that. Again, if this show has been a blessing to you, if this show is something that you think the whole world should know, or maybe it's just one of your friends should know, please share this show and share the Good Success Podcast with your friends. Give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or any other podcast platform that you're listening to this. You would really do us a favor, but really, more importantly, you do the world a favor and more people if you believe that this is a message that should be out there. So that's going to do it for today's episode, guys. Remember to be a conduit, not a bucket. Work to have to give. God bless. We hope you have enjoyed this episode of the Good Success Podcast, and we hope to see you on the next one. God bless.